Good afternoon, everyone. We're seeing attendees level off, so we will get started.
Thank you, everyone, for attending today's eClaims webinar. My name is Anthony Contento, a program manager in the eClaims unit, and joining me today is Michael Hunter, a project coordinator also within the eClaims unit. We ask you to please keep your phone lines muted, as we will be using the chat feature to receive your questions today. Please enter your questions throughout the presentation in the chat box, which is located on the right side of your screen. Use the drop-down to send your questions to the panelists. You can also hover over the WebEx tab at the top of your screen and click on chat if you so desire. And at the end of today's presentation, we'll answer as many of your questions as we can. But if you do happen to have questions that we don't get to today, or if you think of something after the session ends, we will be providing you with the resources at the end of the presentation. So we're going to go over the eClaims change log that was published on September 15th of 2022. For change log item number 340 and also 341, these were both population restrictions that were relaxed on July 28th of this year, and they're both related to claims where denial was still in effect. For change log items number 338 and 343, both of these were clerical edits. Now for 338, that became effective on July 28th. And for change log item number 343, that became effective on August 11th of this year. Now we're going to go over the new edits that are going to be effective December 15th of this year, as well as March 16th of next year. For these three change log items, 323, 324, and 325, they will become effective on December 15th. And these were modifying the reportable change codes. Now, for additional information, please visit the O2 transaction processing document on the board's website. For change log items 328, 329, and 333, these will also become effective on December 15th. Now, for change log item number 328, we modified the population restriction for DN0031, which is date of injury, for 064F, 031G, and 064H by changing the applicable MTC from a FROI 02 to an 02. For change log item number 329, we relaxed population restriction 0031, 064I by removing the condition for DN 0040, which is the date the employer had knowledge of the injury, and also for DN 0041, which is the date claim administrator had knowledge of the injury. For item 333, we also modified that population restriction for DN 0146, which is a death result of injury, for 0146, 064D, 064E, and 064F. For change log items 335, 336, and 337, these are also modified to become effective on December 15th, 2022. Now we're transitioning over to the new edits, which will become effective on March 16th of 2023. For change log item 339, per the IRR that was passed recently by the IIBC, New York State will be accepting code X for non-binary reporting. However, at this time, we will not be accepting the T code. For item 342, this is a population restriction where we will no longer accept negative dollar values. So in other words, you would need to report a dollar amount of $0 or above in order for it to be accepted. For change log item 344, we do not take the dependent gender code in New York State, so the tables were reflected accordingly. Next up is Mike. He's going to go over the reminders for you on 0418064A.
Thank you, Tony. I just want to give everyone a quick reminder for those that are IAIBC members. Since Tony mentioned an IRR, I thought it'd be a good opportunity just to let folks know that the IAIBC every year requires that if you're a member of Claims or Systems Committee that you reapply. And they just sent out the emails recently for folks to reapply if you're currently a member. If you're not, you can always reach out to the IAIBC, and I would highly recommend that you do join the Claims Committee if you're able to do so. This IRR for gender code and many others are discussed within that Claims Committee. So it's a good time to have your voice heard. And with that, I'm going to go over the reminder for DN 418-064A. This was a correction we implemented on July 28th of this year. So earlier this year, we had discovered that one of our population restrictions was not properly coded when we launched Release 3.1 on January 24th. So again, we then had to fix that, and we fixed that on July 28th. Transactions were inadvertently allowed to contain other suspension reason codes other than the SJ when 21A had been applied. Due to this error, please submit a SHROIO 2 changing DN 418 suspension reason code full to SJ on any transaction submitted on 21A claims where DN 418 was not SJ. This will ensure data integrity within the board's claims application system. We also modified the element error text on 8/11 of this year based on trading partners' feedback to replace must be SJ since section 21A ceased to be must be SJ since payments made under section 21A. We're now going to go over the most frequent errors during the past 90 days. The first error was for population restriction DN 85064A. This is the most common error during the past 3 months, and this is a carryover from Release 3.0. It is not a new edit. It's intended to stop new benefit type codes from being introduced as a sweep benefit before an event or a UR had included the benefit type code. This is based on the IAIBC Claims EDI Section 4 rules. And again, this was the top error for the past 90 days, once again. The second most common error was for population restriction 0418-064A. We just discussed that in slide 12, and again, we will publish this presentation, so you'll be able to go back and review slide 12 in the future if you have any questions. And as always, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to the eClaims team as well. The third most common error was for population restriction DN 0075-064C. This again is an eClaims Release 3.0 carryover. This is not a new edit in 3.1, and it's meant to ensure the agreement to compensate code is sent with liability after the board has issued a notice of decision that the case has been established with ANCR or ODNCR in accordance with Section 21A. So again, I just want to mention that any questions may be addressed to the eClaims team. And again, just give a reminder, IAIBC, their committee membership is currently up, so you can renew or join if you're an IAIBC member. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Tony again.
Thanks, Mike. So now we're going to start the question and answer period for today's presentation. As a reminder, please use the chat to send us your questions by either hovering over the WebEx tab at the top of your screen and clicking on chat, or using the chat box if it's open on the right-hand side of your screen. Please send your question to all of the panelists. And once we receive some, Mike or myself will be reading those questions out loud, and a representative from our project leadership team may also be responding besides Mike and myself. You're going to hear some brief silences through this Q&A as we're going to be reviewing the questions that you've provided to us. So brief silence is going to begin now, and please give us a few moments to review your questions, and we'll get back to you shortly. Thank you.
All right, we have a couple questions. One of them is requesting a callback directly. We did get that and just wanted to acknowledge that someone will contact you. There's a question about the gender code and when that will become effective. If you can report it now, it will become effective March 15th of 2023. So that's when we will start to accept that code. There's another question about payments when there's no payments due to a holiday. That is what the new net to zero code that went into effect earlier this year in March is for, part of the release 3.1 standard. You can report your SROI with the net to zero code of Z and the zero payment on that transaction. If you do have questions beyond that, please feel free to reach out to eClaims, and you can ask for one of the leadership team members to reach out to you. We have a reduced earnings question, and how many weeks you can list on one SROI. For reduced earnings, the IAIBC standard allows you up to 52 weeks for reduced earnings within the SROI transaction. Another question, will the presentation be on the board's website? Yes. At the conclusion of this, usually we try to strive within a week to get it posted. We will post both the presentation as well as a recording of this presentation. Another question about reduced earnings. In release 3.1, there is no SROI RE. So you will just use whichever SROI is applicable at the time. For example, if it's reduced earnings from the onset, it may be the SROI initial payment, IP. And if you have a specific scenario, you can always reach out to eClaims at wcv.my.gov, and we are happy to walk you through that. There's a question regarding DN 418. 064A, the population restriction, and why do you need to file the SJ when a claimant returned to work? Per that population restriction, the board requires the SJ reason code rather than the return to work. There's a question about example of lost time with no paid indemnity versus became indemnity for lost time. An example of lost time with no paid indemnity may be a waiting period. For example, became indemnity for lost time is typically I did not lose time initially from work, and I subsequently am out of work, for example, a few weeks later due to surgery or some other reason. There is a question regarding monitoring. For any of those, you can reach out to monitoring@wcv.my.gov. and they will be able to address the monitoring question directly for you. There's a question about how to correct the insurer ID. In Claims EDI, we use the claim administrator and insurer FEN. So as long as you have that registered in your trading partner profile, you can file the FOIA-02 to update the insurer FEN or claim administrator FEN to the correct one. And we then translate that on the board documents in an eCase to the W number. There's also a question about the SHROI sync-up, the SHROI SU, and where a request would need to go for that. You can send that directly to the eClaims team at eclaims@wcb.ny.gov. You'll want to include the case number and the reason why the SHROI SU is needed. For those that may not see the chat questions, I just wanted to read a quick message from Greg Lutz of the IAIBC. In addition to committee membership, the IAIBC is also seeking EDI council members, and you'll also find those applications on their website. If you are in the chat, he included a link as well directly to the IAIBC website. All right, it looks like that is the conclusion of questions. So I'll turn it back over to Tony once again.
All right, thank you again, Mike. And before we conclude today's presentation, I want to make sure that you visit the eClaims website at wcb.ny.gov to stay up to date on eClaims news. And you can also sign up to receive news straight to your inbox. We will be communicating future engagement opportunities throughout the course of any future projects that might be coming to fruition in the near future and far future. So please visit the eClaims site and select WCB notifications within the eClaims overview section. And as a reminder, any questions, comments, and feedback that you have for us, please email us at eclaims@wcb.ny.gov. And you can also follow the board on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And as a final reminder, a recording of this webinar will be placed on our YouTube and eClaims website within the next week or two. So please keep an eye out for that. And with that, I thank you again for joining us. I hope you learned something today. I hope it was informative to you. We appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.